Welcome to T. Lokes, Tucson's local business podcast. I'm your host, L. Connor McEverly, and in each episode, we embark on a journey to connect with the passionate minds behind the businesses and nonprofits that make our community thrive. Join me as I sit down with the owners, visionaries, and change makers who pour their hearts into shaping the local landscape. We explore the challenges, triumphs, and unique journeys that define Tucson's business community. From the corner coffee shop to the innovative startups and impactful nonprofits, T. Lokes is your window into the diverse stories that make our city special. Tune in and get ready to get connected. This is T. Lokes. Howdy, folks. Welcome to T. Lokes, your Tucson local business podcast. I'm your host, L. Connor McEverly, and here with me in the studio today is a local life insurance agent from State Farm. It is my pleasure to introduce to the show Thadeaus Jones. Thadeaus, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Connor. Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited. This is my first podcast. I'm a big fan of T. Lokes and podcasts in general, so I'm pretty excited to share some information, talk to you today.
Of course, I'm excited to have you here. So let's start off with some of the basics. So you work with State Farm and you work with life insurance. What are some of the services that you provide?
You know, State Farm, I'm sure you know, we're famous for our Jake commercials, right? Everybody loves Jake from State Farm. We have a lot of fun jingles like A Good Neighbor, State Farm is there. And we try to live up to that jingle. We try to be good neighbors to everybody. And Jake is just a fun guy. And we do, auto, home insurance, but life insurance is my real focus. I'm really trying to help more people protect what they value most, which is their family and their future. And I think many people don't realize that potentially their family's future is at risk without them there. So that's been my primary goal in the last, 24 months or so.
Right. So what brought you to the life insurance industry and what part of it do you enjoy?
So, I was a banker for 20 years. I worked in a bunch of different aspects of banking. I was a mortgage banker. I was a business banker. I was a branch manager at a couple big, famous banks that I'm sure you've heard of if I name drop. But, I got really sick of it. I did the same thing for 20 years and it just got old. I wasn't really interested in doing it into the future. So I decided to make a career change. And when I did, I went into LinkedIn and I was like, I'm open to talk to recruiters on my LinkedIn profile. And companies obviously started recruiting me. I mean, I have a great resume. I have 20 years in banking. I have an MBA. So the one that piqued my interest was State Farm. I'd been a State Farm customer at that point for 18 years. I'd had the same insurance policies. I had the same agent. And I was like, there might be something here. So I went through the process with State Farm. It was quite an exhaustive process. It was probably the hardest job I've ever gotten. It was very exhaustive. It was a lot, right? I think I spent 6 months just trying to get the position before I actually got the position. So it's a very sought after position, but here I am. I've loved it. I got the job. I went through their 6 months training program, opened up my agency May 1st of 2022. Nice. May 1st, 2024 will be our 2-year anniversary. And immediately what caught my attention was life insurance. And I'm like, wow, I don't have enough life insurance coverage. And my State Farm agent, in his defense, had tried to talk to me about life insurance. And I was like, whatever, I don't, I've got it through work or with the usual stuff that I now get. But I realized during my education with State Farm that, wow, I'm grossly underinsured. You know what I mean? I'm leaving a lot of risk on the table. So I started looking into the different programs. Really fell in love with a couple. I mean, we offer probably 10 different life insurance products, but there's a couple that I really, really love. And so I made sure I purchased, a couple of those. Obviously, I don't need one of everything. I mean, that's a little excessive. But yeah, that's how I got to where I'm at. And so I made it my mission to educate people on the value of life insurance because I had no idea until I got into the industry. So.
Totally. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. I mean, I certainly do. I know that, For me, life insurance or health insurance even was just something that I got through an employer. And when it came to kind of delving into the nitty gritty of insurance, I think one, it felt kind of intimidating, not knowing much about it, but also kind of, like I said, relying on employers. So when it comes to getting life insurance policies, if a lot of people have it through an employer, what happens if you get laid off or your business goes under? Anything can happen. So it definitely makes sense to have a more individualized plan. But what do you think are like some common misconceptions that people have about getting life insurance?
One of the great things about working for the largest insurance company in the United States is that we do a lot of research. We have access to a lot of data. So we know the two primary reasons that people don't buy life insurance. Reason number one is they think they can't afford it. They just assume that it's not affordable because they've heard from a friend who heard it from a friend who that they had to pay this much amount of money for, right. And that's all relative. Life insurance can be very expensive, but it can also be very affordable. So it just depends on how we fit your needs. The second reason is people think it's hard to qualify for, like it's going to be difficult to get. And once again, there is some truth to that. It can be difficult to get depending on who you are, what your habits are, your age, your health. Like there's so many factors involved.
Right.
But for the average person who's of an average age and fairly good health, non-smoker, drinks, 1 to 2 drinks a week, those kind of things, policies often get issued with very little medical no medical exam, very little medical research. So we've got a lot of data on people. Like I said, it's a benefit of working for a large insurance company is we've got a ton of data that we pull together, right? Insurance is a shared risk pool, right? So all insurances work this way. We take a bunch of people that meet the same geographics, demographics, all these same factors, and we put them in this pool, and we've figured out through, mathematics, what is the risk level for this pool? And then we base the premiums on that risk level. Life insurance is no different. So if you meet a certain demographic, you're 25, you're employed, you have 1 to 2 drinks a week, you exercise regular, you're not overweight, like you meet all these factors, your chances of dying soon are low based on mathematics, right? Statistics. So we're going to issue you a policy because we feel pretty comfortable about your chances of living a long life, right? Insurance, we make our money through premiums, but it's the length, right? We sell you a life insurance policy. It's in our best interest for you to live a long and healthy life because we can collect more premiums. It's in your best interest to live a long and healthy life because that's what everybody wants. You know what I mean? Where we come in is when that doesn't work out, right? It's never going to happen to me mentality with a lot of people. A lot of things happen to them and every one of them thought it's never going to happen to me. Right. So it's better to be protected. Mm-hmm. The best insurance is the insurance you never use, in my opinion, right? It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. The saddest calls for me is when someone calls my office and say, you insured Mike. Mike passed away. What kind of life insurance did he have? Mike didn't have any life insurance. And there's notes in the file that we called Mike multiple times. We talked about life insurance. He just chose not to buy it, right? And he's young or he had it through work or, like I've had calls where it's like, well, he had it through work, but they don't pay an accidental death. What? Or they only pay, like their work policy only pays an accidental death. So he got cancer, had to quit his job, died, and the job's like, well, first of all, we're not paying because the life insurance ended as soon as he left the company. Right. And second, it only pays on accidental death. So he would have to get in a car accident or skydiving or, you know what I mean? So the amount of stuff that people don't know about life insurance was staggering to me when I got into the insurance business. I was like, it's all this stuff I don't know that I never even considered, right? So I'm like, I need to educate people on this stuff because it caught me by surprise. So that's kind of been my revelation moment, right? Mm-hmm. My, what do they call, watershed moment where I was like, the light came on.
Right.
So I was like, I immediately started buying life insurance for myself and my family. Like my kids each have a policy. My wife has a policy. I've got 3. I've got one through my employer, which is pretty standard, right?
Right.
You get one from your employer. I've got a term life policy, which is the big bang for the buck. It's a lot of coverage for a little bit amount of money, but it's only good for 20 years. And then I've got, it's called an IUL, Index Universal Life Policy, which is smaller amount of coverage, but it's a permanent insurance that lasts for my whole life. And it also acts as a savings vehicle to help me build some equity for my future in the policy. So I've got 3 layers of coverage, and I made sure that I understood each one, how they pay out, when they pay out, who my beneficiaries are, how my beneficiaries collect. Those things are important to know.
Of course.
If you're going to purchase life insurance.
So it seems like there are a large amount of different kinds of policies and maybe some benefits that some people wouldn't really recognize. Like you were mentioning that you were like building equity for your future, and that leads me to ask, what might be some benefits that most people don't realize come with life insurance, right? Like there's the basic, your family can get some money to help, alleviate financial burdens when you're gone. But what else is there?
So your basic term policies, like I have a term policy, a lot of people refer to that as death insurance, right? Mm-hmm. That you pay money every month or every year, depending on how you set your premiums. When you die, your family gets money, right? So a lot of people refer to that jokingly as death insurance because it only pays out in the event of your death. Otherwise, that has no value, right?
Right.
That's where you get the most bang for your buck. You get a large amount of coverage for a small amount of money, premium. Then I have what's called an IUL, Index Universal Life Policy, where the coverage isn't as high as my term, but my premium is higher, but only a small portion of that premium that I pay goes to the cost of life insurance. The majority of it goes into an equity bucket, where now I build cash value every year when State Farm Life Insurance Company has more money collected in premiums than payouts. We pay what's called a dividend. All policyholders get a dividend based on their percentage of the money in the account and how long the policy's been in place. There's all these factors to calculate the dividend payment, but everybody gets a dividend. And then you're an interest on that money, right? So over time, the time value of money, I pay my premiums, the time value of money, that money grows. So let's say I pay, round made up numbers, I pay $200 a month in premium, right? Okay. $40 a month goes to the cost of insurance, right? Goes to State Farm because we're in it to make money, right? Let's not keep it that a secret, but there's a cost of insurance and there's, we need to make money. So $160 of that goes into my bucket. That bucket can earn interest, right? So there's a fixed set of interest, or if you have it tied to an index, what the Index Universal Life means, like you can tie it to indexes like the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? Those are indexes. So that money doesn't actually go into the index. So there's not some guy, a broker or trader in State Farm buying stocks with my money in the index. We just look at the growth of that index and tie that to the growth of the money in my account. Right.
Interesting.
So that's how the Indexed Universal Life Policy works. It's not, you don't buy money in the stock market. So there's no risk like if you had a mutual fund or something like that.
Right.
So the Indexed Universal Life Policy it uses the index as a rating factor for growth. And we try to match it to that index. Insurance companies are one of the safest companies in America. For years, the insurance companies have been the backbone of the American economy, right? Because we take money, we invest money, we keep that money safe. We're very solid, right? We have a job to protect our customers. So when something happens, there was a big storm in Arizona, a bunch of people lost their roofs. State Farm had to write a bunch of checks. We're prepared for that, right? We've got to be prepared for that. So we cannot risk money. So it's a relatively safe investment. There's no guarantees on anything, right? We're not going to give anybody a guarantee. I mean, there's few guarantees in life, especially in financial markets, but we're statistically a lot safer than, let's say, a mutual fund. So probably the Universal Life Policy is my favorite policy personally, because you get multiple uses out of it. We even have a feature where, as an endorsement to your Universal Life Policy, you can buy long-term care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the money that you build in the future can be used to supplement long-term care. And then in some circumstances, your death benefit can be used while you're alive for long-term care if you have a long-term care rider.
Okay.
So, and it's much more affordable than a long-term care policy, standalone long-term care policy, right?
Right.
So a lot of these great benefits that that people don't know about because they don't care to ask, right? They just, well, I picked it on my a la carte benefits at work and I've got coverage.
Right.
Right. Well, how much coverage do you have? I don't know. When does it pay out? I don't know. Can you keep it when you leave the company? I don't know. Like I get that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you know? You know what I mean? Are you sure you have life insurance? Because you don't seem too confident.
Right. And, I can attest to that. I've been in plenty of jobs, and when that time of year, open enrollment, comes around, I wasn't looking at a whole lot of details, but that's...
Click, click, click. I did the same thing. Like I said, I was in banking for 20 years.
No.
And banks, one of the great things about working for corporate banks is the great benefits, right?
Right.
Like health insurance is very affordable. Life insurance is included. You just get short-term disability, long-term you just have all these a la carte benefits, and you just click, click, click what you want, unclick what you don't want.
Right.
And you figure out what your monthly or your paycheck amount come out of your paycheck to pay all your benefits is, and then you just move on with your life for the next year. And you don't read a lot of the details. You don't look in depth. You just go life insurance. Oh, that's great. I'll take that. You know, that's 50 cents a month. And then, I'll take life insurance for my kids. That's $2 a month. Oh, my wife's $4 a month. So for, $8 a month, I got life insurance. Well, that's great. You know what I mean? Like, no idea what it covers, where it goes, who's providing the coverage. You're just clicking through. And hopefully you never need it, right? Like I said, the best type of insurance is insurance you never need, but you leave that company. Here's an example. I worked for a company called Bank of the West, right? They got bought out by BMO Harris Bank, so Bank of the West is no longer around. But when I left Bank of the West, I had life insurance for my whole family as an employee benefit. And I thought, this is great. So I left the company, and then I got, an email. Hey, this is MetLife. You had this life insurance coverage through a group plan through Bank of the West. We are here to extend it to you for the future. Now that you've left Bank of the West, we'd love to talk to you about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is great, right? I'm thinking, it's $8 a month through Bank of the West. How much could it be? Like for my family, it was like a low amount of coverage. It was like $380 a month. And it was like, wow. Like I said, I've since bought policies for my family. I'll tell you what, the coverage is better and I pay less. You know what I mean?
Right.
So MetLife wasn't looking out for me.
Right.
They were just taking a chunk out of that group life insurance policy that Bank of the West had purchased from them for all their employees. Figured out, okay, this is what it cost us. This is what you're going to pay. Right.
Right. Howdy, listener. Are you also a podcaster seeking to stand out in the crowded audio landscape? I'm here to help. L. Connor Voice, LLC, offers top-tier audio engineering, meticulous content management, and more, all tailored to save you time and elevate your podcast to new heights of professionalism. With L. Connor Voice, you can focus on what you do best, creating captivating content, while I handle the rest. Say goodbye to hours spent tweaking audio levels and managing uploads. I ensure your podcast shines with polished sound quality and seamless delivery. Ready to take your podcast to the next level? Contact L. Connor Voice, LLC today and make producing your podcast as easy as hitting record. Links are in the episode notes.
And they didn't even try to give me an alternative. If a customer calls me and says, hey, I bought this life insurance policy 10 years ago, I can no longer afford it. What can we do?
Right.
I'm going to try to find solutions for them, right?
Right.
Try to find them what's your budget? Can we lower your payment? What's your coverage? How much coverage do you need now? 10 years ago, when you bought this policy, you needed more. Kids are out of the house or out of college, so you don't need $1 million anymore, right? You don't have college pending, weddings, all that's done. So we can often reconfigure their life insurance and change it to meet their needs today versus what they bought 10 or 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Right.
So, and I've done that for several customers that they I don't want to cancel this, but I can't afford this premium now. Well, Today, I might need $1 million in life insurance coverage. I've got 2 kids in college. I've got a home mortgage. I've got obligations. When I'm 70, 20 years from now, I might not need $1 million in coverage. Hopefully my home will be paid off. My kids will be married. They'll have their own lives. Like they'll have their own homes and they'll be buying the $1 million policies to protect their families. And I'll scale my life insurance back to what I need to tie up my affairs, so to speak, right? Cover burial costs and those kind of things. So, everybody's life is different. Your needs at the time are different. I'm not going to try to sell you $1 million life insurance policy if you don't need it. Like oftentimes people will call me and they'll say, I need life insurance. I'll be like, I agree. You've told me this multiple times. I agree with you. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know what to buy. I'm like, well, let's talk about your obligations. Then I give them the different options for premiums based on the product. And then, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. And then we find a policy that meets their needs, right? We get them the most coverage they can for their budget. And typically they're very happy because we've right-sized their life insurance to fit their individual needs. I just didn't take an order sheet, fill it out and say, okay, here's your life insurance. You have this much for this much.
Right.
Well, I don't need that much, or I need more. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And any amount of coverage, in my opinion, is better than no coverage at all.
Right.
Even if we get you in, a 10-year term at $50,000 for $25 a month or whatever, that's better than no coverage.
Absolutely.
Right now, I think the people I'm trying to reach the most are anybody in their 20s that's just entered the workforce or just finished college, or they're now, just finished college, entering the workforce. They're young. They have some pocket money, right? Mm-hmm. This is before they bought their house. This is before they've, got the RV and they're starting the college funds. They're young. Life insurance is cheap when you're young. It's the best time to buy a policy that lasts your whole life. Actually, the best time to buy a whole life policy is for a baby. Like your kid is born, the next day buy them a whole life policy because that premium is locked in till they're age 100. So if you buy it when they're 2 days old, whatever that premium is at 2 days old is the same premium they're going to pay for the rest of their life. We even have policies at 20-year, it's called a 20 pay. So the life insurance is completely paid in full in 20 years. Mm-hmm. So they go off to college and you've got a fully paid life insurance policy for them. So 10 years later, they're married. They're like, oh my God, all these obligations. You're like, oh, I bought this policy for when you were 1 year old or whatever. It's fully paid for. Just take care of it and don't lose it. And you don't have to pay anything on it. You can make your wife the beneficiary, your husband or whoever, right? It's like, those are great gifts for kids. Grandparents. I encourage grandparents to buy those. Because like, I don't know what to get them. You know what I mean? I'm like,
right.
Have you heard of a 20 pay life?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to buying it for my grandkids. My kids are a little old for that, because as you get older, the premiums get more expensive.
Right.
But for sure, 100%. When my grandkids are born, I'm buying 10 pay or 20 pay lives. Like I'm getting those. And then when they're 20, I'm gonna be like, look, I know you don't see the value of this, but I have this for you when you're ready.
Right.
Right. And they'll go, well, yeah, I'm 20 years old. I don't care about life insurance. You know what I mean? Grandpa's crazy. Like, what's he talking about? But when they're 30 or 40 or something happens, they go to the doctor and they're like, you have kidney disease or you have cancer. No one ever sits around and goes, man, I know I'm going to get cancer. I should buy life insurance. Like rarely, I should say never, but rarely. Most people aren't sitting around like, oh, I'm probably going to die young. My family has a history of heart disease. I should buy life insurance, right?
Right.
I hear people talk about, my dad died at 55 from cancer. I'm like, do you have life insurance? No. How old are you? 32. I'm like, you might want to consider, based on family history, getting a policy now. Because once you get cancer, that's going to be hard to get life insurance, if not impossible. Once you get diagnosed with kidney disease, I talked to a guy on the phone the other day, terminal cancer. He's got less than a year to live. And he's like, I wish I would have bought life insurance.
Yeah.
Because I have a policy, it's guaranteed issue, final expense policy. We'll give it to anybody. But the caveat is if you die within 2 years, you only get your return of premium.
Yeah.
And so he called and he's like, I wish I could get life insurance. I told him about this product and he's like, I'm going to be dead in a year. So it doesn't do me any good. If I was living longer than 2 years, I'd buy the policy from you. regardless of the cost. So don't be that person that waits until you're terminally ill. And this guy's not even that old. He's mid-50s. And he's changing everything in his life. And we have conversations probably 2-3 times a month because he's changing his insurance on his cars and his home, and he's putting things in trust. He knows he's going to die. You know what I mean? He's at the verge of being deceased, and he's having all these revelations that he probably should have had in his 20s.
Right.
Changing things he probably should have changed in his 20s. But everybody thinks it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
So great. Think that. I hope that's true. But buy life insurance, Justin.
Yeah. I mean, it, through this discussion and listening to your insights, it's very clear that there is a myriad of benefits that can be gained from getting a life insurance policy, and not even just for yourself, but for your young ones, right? And through discussing this as well, we've kind of picked out some maybe pitfalls or mistakes people make where they don't look at their policy clearly, or they just stay with an employer policy, or that they don't think to get a policy until it's far too late. And kind of among maybe some of those pitfalls that we've discussed, are there any other potential things that people should look out for, or like common mistakes people make when it comes to getting a policy?
Just be careful. There's a lot of programs out there that I hear like advertisements on the radio. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, you get this much coverage for this much a month. Just be real careful about that, because a lot of times, they're basing their advertisements on the best case scenario.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're saying, oh, you get $1 million in coverage for $20 a month. I would be very careful about that, because that's probably someone who's 18, perfect health, never ever had a drink of alcohol, like all these factors that most people can't repeat.
Right.
So they call and get a quote, and it's much higher. And then they're like angry, or they just take it,
Right.
Pick a company you can count on. I had a customer call me the other day that was freaking out because she bought a life insurance policy 20 years ago. And I'm not going to name the company because I don't feel it's appropriate. But she's like, I got a letter from them saying they may not be able to. And this is a whole life policy. It's built, cash value over 20 years.
Right.
And she's like, they might not be able to go make good on this. They're contemplating bankrupt. This is a large life insurance company. It's well known in America. And I was like, ooh, that's tough. You know what I mean? Like, so make sure that you're investing in a company, State Farm. And I'm not saying we're the best. We've been around. This is our 101st year in business. There's not a lot of insurance companies that have been around that long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. We're a mutual company, which means our policyholders are our shareholders. So you want to buy a share of State Farm, you have to get an insurance policy from us. We do not sell stock. You can't go on E-Trade and buy a share of State Farm. You can't. We're not publicly traded. Mm-hmm. We're a public company, but we're a mutual company. So our policy owners are our investors. Our investors are our policy owners. So we do everything we can to protect not only our policy owners, but they're also our investors, right? They're our shareholders. The future of this company is built on our customers, and our customers' future sometimes is built on this company. So 101 years in business, I think that says a lot.
Absolutely.
Lot. You'd be hard pressed to find a lot of companies that have been in business that long and that steady, that have the amount of assets we have, the amount of reliability, that get, high ratings. Of course, no company's perfect. You can go on the internet and find a horror story about any company, right? Like I've heard some horror stories about State Farm, and they happen. Like nobody's 100% of the time, right? Yeah. What's that? Like the Lego movie? 60% of the time we get it right 100% of the time. Like, that's not a statistic. That's just a funny quote. But, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of times everybody expects it to be perfect all the time. Notice I'm not perfect all the time. Connor, I'm sure you're not perfect all the time. Like I make mistakes. I make errors. I'm human. I do things wrong. I say the wrong thing. I walk into the wrong place.
Sure.
Nobody is 100%. So just be careful who you buy your life insurance from. if you just want to have a conversation with me, people can just reach out to me and we can have a conversation about it. I'm not high pressure, right? I've not ever once said to a customer, if you don't buy this insurance today, you're going to regret it. You know what I mean? Like you've had these conversations with like car salesmen that go for the high pressure.
Right.
Well, if you don't buy this car today, you're going to regret it forever. You know what I mean? Or, you're never going to find another deal like this. And, we're taking great care of you. And, they'll tell you anything to make the sale.
Right.
Where I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to educate you. We're going to talk about your budget. We're going to talk about your life. We're going to talk about your needs. And I'm going to say, all right, which one of these policies best meets your needs? Mm-hmm. And are you ready to buy today? And if the answer is none of them or no, I'm going to be like, all right, give me a call. When can I follow up with you? Right. Never call me again. Okay. Right. Can I follow up within 2 weeks? Or,
sure.
I had an experience. Someone I knew well tried to sell me life insurance. And I listened to his spiel and I thought I should buy this life insurance, but I just got busy, right? I just got busy in my life.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, he called me back and he's like, hey, I'm like, yeah, I know I need to do this. I definitely need to do this. This is years ago. I definitely need to buy this insurance. And then he never called again. Right. And I was ready to make a purchase decision, but I just had pressures coming from outside areas. I felt like if he would have just kept calling me, because I really wanted to buy it and I needed to buy it.
Yeah.
But he kind of gave up. He's like, this guy's not going to buy.
Right.
I've had people that I've called for 6 months every 2 weeks. And we finally wrote a policy for them. Because from day one, they're like, I want this insurance. I need this insurance. But I just had to get to a point in their life where all the planets came into alignment.
Yeah.
Where they could come into the office and sit down and do it. We can do it over the phone. I've sold plenty of policies just over the phone. We're very modern. We do electronic signatures.
Nice.
We do payments, ACH payments, card payments. We're very modern. We're an old company, but we're very modern. So
yeah,
we try to come into the technology. I'll walk you through the process, explain everything to you. If you need me to hold your hand, I will hold your hand. Like that's one of the services we provide. We don't want people going to this. What happens next? Why didn't you tell me this was going to happen? Right? Why aren't you communicating with me?
Yeah.
I thought I could trust you, right? Like we don't want people to have that experience.
Of course.
We want people to have a good experience. We want to help them have a good experience. And we're here to help.
Yeah. And I mean, it's very clear how passionate you are about what you do and how far you will go to make sure that your clients, even prospective clients, feel cared for and are cared for properly.
I think it's an important decision, and like I said, it came from internally when I had this watershed moment, this revelation, like, holy Toledo, I'm underinsured, right? There's a whole bucket of stuff I don't know about life insurance.
Right.
Like I'm ignorant to things that I should have knowledge of as a grown-up, you know what I mean? As an adult. And I was like, if that's me, there's got to be thousands of other people just like me that if they knew what they didn't know, they would make different decisions. They would do things differently.
Yeah.
So like I said, my primary thing is educating people and helping them get the protection that they need, or at least something they can afford, right? At the very least, get them in the door, get them some kind of protection. Because you might be 22 years old and you think, I don't need life insurance. Mm-hmm. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have a home. I have a 1996 Toyota Corolla. Like, what do I need life insurance for? Well, you have an apartment, right? You have a mom, you have a sister.
Yep.
I heard a story and I shared this in our meeting the other day about young man, 22 years old. He's in college. He's at the beach on spring break. Tragic accident happens. He becomes paralyzed, breaks his neck, quadriplegic. Didn't have any kind of disability insurance, short-term, long-term disability to help the family with care, right?
Right.
So fundraisers, right? They had to do fundraisers. This is before, what's the thing on the internet? GoFundMe or whatever. Yeah. So they had to do community fundraisers, bake sales, church stuff,
Wow.
To just take care of him, right?
Yeah.
They had to buy, a wheelchair. He 22 years old, he didn't have health insurance. He's in college. You know what I mean? So the family had to come up out of pocket with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then 4 years later, 26 years old, he has a surgery. There's a complication. He gets an infection. He dies.
Jeez.
No life insurance.
Yeah.
So now the family's got all this stuff they have to deal with and they have no money.
Right.
They've been destitute because of his care.
Right.
But they got nothing.
Yeah.
Right. They're hurting. They're hurting inside. They're hurting financially. Like it was devastating for the family. It could have been prevented. 22 years old, if he would have even had like a $50,000 life insurance policy or a small short-term disability policy, disability policies can be very affordable, just a few dollars a month when you're young. You know what I mean? Like when you're young, it's so affordable. Here's another side of that coin. Lady bought a whole life policy, 30 years ago. She's been sick for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Family's been pretty much destitute, trying to take care of mom and medical expenses. And it's just, It's been tough. She passed away. They got $250,000 in life insurance. Changed everything. Wow. Everything. They were able to pay off cars, prepay their rent for a year, invest money in the market, for the granddaughter. It changed everything. This life insurance payment took them from, oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive? To, wow, we have this hope for the future. And the husband's older, he's in his 80s. Yeah. And, he's like, the most important thing right now is I got to make sure my life insurance is paid because I don't want my daughter to go through this. Right.
Yeah, of course.
I want her to have a lot of money available to her to deal with me after I perish, right? The cost, people understand the burial expenses, the cost of, they had a memorial. She was loved. 200 people, this memorial service, they had to rent a place. Right. They had to have catering and, it was like 11 grand for this service for mom, which they would have never considered had they not got this $250,000 life insurance check. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
it was my pleasure to provide them that money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is a policy that they've been paying on for 30 years. It's great coverage, a great policy. Just, it changed everything, right? And those are the stories that I like.
Yeah.
That's what I want my family to go through. When my time comes and I move on to the next realm, I want my family to get this huge check and be like, we'll never get over you, but it sure is nice to have a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And it can change everything. Life insurance can literally change everything in a moment.
Absolutely.
For good or for bad if you don't have it.
Right.
So,
and I think you've laid out really well, like, definitely the benefits that come with it, the drawbacks of not having it. If there's someone out there, which I'm sure there are plenty of listeners right now who are curious and they want to learn more, where can they go to contact you?
So, I have a website.
Okay.
Thadeausjones.com. It's www.thadeausjones.com. You can call my office, 520-886-5313. Love to help. Love to talk to you. Just call us, get information. I can send you quotes. I can send you information. We can just have a conversation about what you need, what your future plans are, what kind of protection or how it would benefit you.
Right.
It's free information. Like, just go to the website.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So just, folks, go in those episode notes and you'll find Thadeaus's links down there. Reach out to him. Learn.
And I just want to be clear. I said, this person I followed up with for 6 months, just because you reach out to us and send us an inquiry doesn't mean I'm going to call you every 2 weeks for 6 months. Yeah. This person, I was like, hey, I'm going to call you in 2 weeks. And they said, yes, call me in 2 weeks.
Right.
I call them in 2 weeks. I'm not ready yet. I'm going to call you in 2 weeks. Yes. Come. You know what I mean? It's not like if you tell me, you know what? I don't need it. I don't want it. Never call me again. I'm going to put a note. Not interested, Right. But what I don't want to happen is when your family calls me and they're like, oh, we know you were talking to Mitch about life insurance.
Yeah.
How much did he buy? Well, he didn't buy any. Well, Mitch passed away in a motorcycle accident or, you know what I mean?
Right.
He got cancer or whatever. I don't want to have to explain to your family that you didn't make a purchase decision.
Right.
But it'll be in my notes. It'll say, Mitch said not to call him anymore. He's not interested or he doesn't think he needs it right now.
Right.
One of my best friends from high school died at 32 years old from a weird, rare disease. He got diagnosed and died so fast, I'm not even sure what it was. Like, I just remember getting this call from his mother being like, he's dead. Like, he just got diagnosed like 3 months ago.
Jeez.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was so sudden and shocking. It devastated his mom. He's an only child.
Yeah.
His father had passed away when he was young.
Right.
Now she's all alone. But what's she going to do? You know what I mean? And it's just, it's moments like those that you wish you could never have to go through, but we all
Right.
go through them, right? We're all going to die someday. It's inevitable. Like, what's the death and taxes, right?
Mhm.
Well, you ask the right people, I'm pretty sure you can get out of paying taxes. That's not tax advice, by the way. Talk to your tax advisor. I'm not a tax advisor. But death at this point is inevitable, right? We're all
Right.
going to die at some point. So
Yep.
how are you going to prepare? How are you going to plan for it? It's just another destination, right?
Yeah.
Life is a path, death is the destination. How are you going to prepare for it? You know you're going to get there eventually. Like, do you want to have, an Airbnb set up for you? Like, or are you just going to like wing it when you get there?
So, Thad, we are coming to the end of our time today. I have one more question for you.
7. The answer's 7. Is that right?
That's wrong.
Oh.
Well, actually, I guess there's no wrong answer here. Because the question is what is one thing of the many that you love about Tucson?
Oh, I'd say the weather. Absolutely the weather. There's, in the summer, you can get out early. I love getting out early in the morning, sun up on my bike and just riding. I can put a couple hours in on the bike before it gets too hot. I love the early morning bike ride. It's peaceful. It smells good. It's wonderful. And then in the winter, the mornings aren't great because it's cold, but the rest of the day is amazing. You can do whatever you want all day. I can go running. I can go to sporting events. Like, I can do whatever I want. Like, Tucson year-round weather is 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just got to time it right. You got a different timing for different parts of the year.
Right.
But it's absolutely the weather. That's what keeps me in Tucson. My wife and I have looked at moving all manner of places because, we've got a little bit of wanderlust. But it's like, it always comes back to, man, the weather in Tucson is just so good.
Yeah.
I've never owned a parka. I've never owned a snow shovel. I don't know what it's like to dig my car out of the snow, scrape my windshield. Like, these are experiences that I just don't have in Tucson. Or if I have them and they're so rare,
Right.
like, I don't have an ice scraper. Why?
Yeah.
I want to have ice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't walk out of my house in the morning and slip on the ice and fall down because I don't have any ice.
Yep.
If your ice is in your fridge, like, that's the only place you're going to get ice in Tucson. We don't make it here naturally. It's crazy. Of course, I've never owned ice skates. So there's that, but I like it. I mean, I love Tucson. I love the weather. I love the desert. I love the smell after the rain of the desert plants. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Tucson is an amazing place, really and truly. Well, Thad, thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking to us about life insurance and how it can better benefit you and your family.
It really can. And you can use it today. There's a lot of ways you can benefit from it today versus when you die. Your family's always going to benefit from you die, but there's ways you can benefit from it today.
Yeah.
So if there's one takeaway from that, there it is.
All right. All right, folks. Well, until 2 weeks from today, I'll talk to you then. Toodaloo. And that's a wrap for another episode of T. Lokes, your go-to podcast for uncovering the untold stories of Tucson's local businesses and nonprofits. A big thank you to our incredible listeners for joining us on this journey of connection and discovery. I want to extend a huge thank you to Thadeaus Jones from State Farm for coming on the show today and talking to us more about the myriad benefits of life insurance. Show them some love and check out their links in the episode notes. A huge thank you to Louis Sanders at Soundhouse Publishing for making our unforgettable podcast theme music. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay connected with Tucson's vibrant business scene, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback is invaluable, and it helps us continue bringing you engaging conversations. As we wrap up, remember that T. Lokes isn't just a podcast, it's a community. Let's keep the conversation going on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or our Discord channel and share your thoughts, suggestions, or even recommend a local business or nonprofit you'd like to see featured on the show. Thank you once again for being a part of the T. Lokes community. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep supporting the heartbeat of Tucson. Toodaloo.